drink for my troubles, another cold cigarette. I'm not the type, but I'll take a bet that flame will keep burning on as I go chasing the dawn, as I go chasing the dawn, as I go chasing the dawn. Another stroll in the shadows, one more familiar street. It seems that history is bound to repeat. That's how my destiny's drawn. Just when the story is shifting, turns out it's too good to last. Maybe I just can't escape from the past as I go chasing the dawn. Why don't you just release me and go your separate way? My heart has nothing left to give away. Another drink for my troubles, another cold cigarette. I'm not the type, but I'll take a bet that flame will keep burning on as I go chasing the dawn, as I go chasing the dawn, as I go chasing the dawn.
And good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Halsey Live. We have one of our favorite guests back today, Tom Luongo, where his contact details are in the description, tomluongo.me, so you can find him there. I would suggest that you sign up for his newsletter, as it's probably one of the greatest things that you'll ever invest in. And it gives you a real good idea of what's going on these days. So, Tom, what's up, man?
Not much, Halsey. How you doing?
Thank God, I am doing amazing. I am doing amazing.
Doing better?
So, what's new with you, man?
I breathe in, I breathe out, I repeat when I need to, and I watch Trump roll the European Union flower and go for the wet spot. Like, it's not that hard.
Ain't that the truth? You know,
So
he's been
yeah,
kicking the shit out of them lately. It's been fun to watch. You know,
it has been fun to watch. So I mean, it really has. I mean, like, and I was watching it. I don't know, like, we were doing this the morning after his fire breathing side chat that he did last night, and which was hilarious because I knew that's what he was going to do. I didn't know, but I knew.
But you
that
knew
he would. Yeah, I mean, he wasn't going to come out and be like touchy-feely Donald Trump. Not with the first one, right? The first one, he's got to do the whole look. I'm kicking ass. I don't know what the fuck these people are talking about, right? And gladly to watch him do that process. I'm like playing with the green screen because it's bothering the shit out of me. But like,
don't worry,
the life
I'm doing
the
the
afternoon yet. So yeah. So the so watching him do that last night, just got to go through. By the way, I'm kicking ass on this. I kicked ass on this. I kicked ass on this. This is what's happening. And he does this the night before he knows the CPI number is going to come out and be ridiculously good. You know, like, it's not like he didn't know what the freaking number was, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, I watched it and I'm like, okay, like, cool. Let's end World War III and move on. Like, you know what I mean? Let's end the possibility of World War III and let's move on. But unfortunately, Europe is just not going to be appeased, and they can't be appeased, right? And I think I both know why. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, I also thought it was great that he showed up Tucker on it too, because Tucker was bragging for all the whole morning about how his inside sources in Congress told him that Trump was going to announce a war with Venezuela. And
why would anybody in Congress give Tucker Carlson that information? Why would the Trump administration let it be known strategically that he was going to do that? Like, this is one of those dumbest fucking things imaginable. Like, it's really dumb. And, you know, like, if they were announcing the war with Venezuela last night, the war with Venezuela would have already started.
Yep. 100%. Like, what's he going to do? He's going to go, hey, guys, we're going to war with Venezuela. Don't worry, the missiles are going to start firing soon. Like, giving Maduro time to hide. And no, he would have said, 5 hours ago, I started launching attacks against Venezuela, and now our goal is to do X, Y,
by the
and Z.
way, Maduro was a dead man. Like, no, clearly what's going on here is not getting rid of Maduro. This is a very interesting moment in time. Because what went under the radar with all of this? With all this histrionics, with all the libertarians crashing out, with all the Groypers crashing out, and Thomas Massey and all the rest of them, they're all freaking crashing out. That Trump is betraying us all, and okay, fine. But the dogs and cats living together, like the accelerationists are out in full force. What went under the radar? Nobel Prize winning Venezuelan president in exile, Maria Machado, hot-footed it out of there, and she was one of the few ships that was allowed to leave the region. Yep. Now, that one was clearly Davos's choice to take over for Maduro.
Sure.
Trump has continued to sit here and play games with Maduro. I'm going to throw something at you, Halsey, that a friend of mine posited to me last night. And I think I didn't talk about, I've had multiple opportunities to talk about it since he and I chatted about it.
I've got something for you in a little bit too.
A couple days ago. But your show is the perfect place for me to talk about this. I think we finally figured out Trump's geopolitical madness when he wants to really fix something. But he can't fix it. But the people that he wants to fix can't fix it on their own because they're in a no-win situation. So what does he do? He takes on the role of the bad guy.
Sure.
He did it with Iran. Iran couldn't get out of their nuclear program, which Davos installed. Remember, what was I saying all earlier in the year? Iran's nuclear program is the forever war.
Yep.
And nobody could understand what I was meant by that. I'm like, no, this was designed as a thing that was never going to go away. And whose modus operandi is this? Is that Israel's? No. Is it Davos's? Yes. Is it the United States's? No. Well, it is when the United States was fully aligned with these, vampiric assholes in Europe. But now that we're not, globalist United States is a thing of the past. Sovereigntist United States is a thing of the present. Many people cannot see this because they refuse to see it because their business models are basically built on the idea that they're anti-imperial commentators, and that's what their audience is. And for them to shift 90 degrees now, or even 180 degrees, would be existential to their business. And I think Tucker Carlson fits into this model. So does Doug McGregor. So does Judge Knapp. So does all these people. I'll sit here and name names, so I don't give a fuck anymore because I'm here to win and go home. So, Trump takes on the role of the bad guy. I'm going to bomb Iran. Why? Because Iran can't actually break down its own nuclear program on its own. I'm going to be the bad guy when it comes to Venezuela because Maduro can't kick out the Davosian and Langley forces and MI6 forces that actually run the country. He's a captured pawn. He's the bad guy that we all see, but he's not actually the bad guy, right? So this is, I think, the way he's dealing with it. He's trying to do the same thing with Zelensky in Ukraine, but it won't work. He tried a couple of times with Zelensky and in order to be the bad guy, right, with Putin. Put sanctions on him, fire breathe at Putin and all this other stuff, even though we all knew it was freaking kayfabe. But he tried, and they wouldn't walk away from him. They wouldn't walk away. They wouldn't walk away. They wouldn't walk away. So now, guess who gets to be the bad guy? Because the final boss here is not for Trump to finish this. He's not here to finish this fight. It's for us to finally say, we don't want to be a part of it, and I'm just doing the will of the people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? That's what I think. I think that whole, I'll be the bad guy to fix the problem, and then afterwards, I'll be the guy who gets to then just determine the outcome. Right? And that's what he did. That's certainly what he did with Israel, Iran, and Gaza.
Sure. I agree with everything you say, but there's a different way I'm looking at things as well lately. And it was funny because I'm not going to say who it was, but I have a friend who does an economic podcast, right? And sometimes, like, he's more of a philosophy guy, but he's into the philosophy of money. And sometimes he's really good, sometimes he's really bad. But like for both our sanity, we don't like publicly associate with each other. But when he comes up with an idea, sometimes he'll send it to me and say, "Can you look at this and see if I'm right?" Because it's usually about numbers, right? And sooner or later, I start looking at everything through economic lenses. Like I understand that we have philosophical problems, but in the end, money is king, right? And that's just the way it is in the world. It always has been, always will be. So me and you both said in 2016 that if Trump won, it was probably because they wanted him to win. Okay? Like, that whatever happens, whoever the powers that be at the time, whether you want to call them Davos, whether you want to call them the American deep state, they did not want a Hillary Clinton presidency. Right? Now, you could take it a step further. They did want a Joe Biden presidency.
Yes.
Okay? And I think the reason they wanted a Joe Biden presidency, and then, again, I still think they wanted a Trump presidency this time, which is why they kept Kamala on the ballot and flubbed that election so openly, is because after COVID, right, one of two things was going to happen. They were either going to have complete control and keep the lockdowns going forever, or if it didn't work, right, they had to distance themselves far enough from it that when things go bad in America, they couldn't blame themselves. Like, they wouldn't be in power when it happened, and they had to get away from it, right? So I think the reason Trump's in power right now is we're coming to an economic reckoning, right? And that's undeniable. We have so much debt, it's spiraling out of control. We're not getting anything for the debt that we have or the budgets that we pass. Our healthcare system is a wreck. The more the retail and commercial housing markets and real estate markets are crashing. We can't find anyone to buy our bonds anymore, right? Like that's why the Fed is monetizing the debt. So this guy say he started by asking me a question: what do all empires / governments do when they find themselves in this situation? They debase their currency, right? Because it's all you can do. Right? We've already done it twice. We did it once in the 20s and again in the 70s. Right? And what winds up happening is people that save, people that are in cash, people that are in bonds, they get killed. But everybody else, it kind of just gets used to the new normal, and it takes time to rebuild trust, but you can save the country by debasing the currency. So what the numbers that he had me run, because and I'm making this dead clear, I am not making any financial recommendations to anyone, okay? Because that's why I don't associate with him publicly, because he does do that all the time, even though he puts the disclaimer there. He then goes on to make complete financial recommendations to everybody, and I don't want to do that myself. But what he had me run the numbers on is, if we had a strategic Bitcoin depository in the government and enough gold, what would it take to make our debt load manageable, right? And I ran the numbers, and it came to about $1 million of Bitcoin and about $20,000 an ounce for gold. That's what it would have to be worth in order to make our balance sheet manageable, right? Then I look at he pointed me towards another direction. He said, okay, well, what other countries are having this same debt problem? That'd be Japan, that would be China, that would be all of Europe, but no one gives a shit about Europe. Okay, but all of these countries also have large gold reserves and have been stockpiling Bitcoin for a long time. Trump's been acquiring Bitcoin like crazy, but he's not buying it from the market, which is what kind of everyone thought he was going to do when he announced the strategic Bitcoin reserve. He's taking it from criminals, right?
Yep.
But in order to debase the currency for a country like ours to avoid something like civil war at this point, you have to make sure we have enough resources that the rebuilding isn't so painful that people resort to just straight up violence, right? Which is why I think Venezuela is actually popping off. We just want our oil contracts back. We made the investment. We're collecting on that investment. And we can't do it in a way that makes Putin makes us look like his bitch, because it would. They've already offered us all the oil. We said no. Because, you know what I'm saying? It makes Putin look like he's in charge. So I think they're going to take that deal. Like, I think sooner or later this whole thing's going to go away and we're just going to say, okay, great, we'll take the oil back. We don't care about Maduro, right? We don't care about Venezuela.
No, clearly we don't care about the oil. So I don't think this is about oil. I don't think this is about resources. I think this is about stopping the flow of any more guys coming into America that can organize the resistance against us. I think that
That's all true, but the only thing with the oil is that if our currency debases and we hit a period of hyperinflation, which we would, right? We need to have access to resources that are ours, not that we're buying elsewhere.
I get it. I just don't buy the hyperinflation argument. I just don't. I believe
the last in the 20s when we debased the currency, we had inflation rates of 27%. When we did it in the 70s, I think we hit 19%. I understand hyperinflation is usually like somewhere between 60 and 100% inflation. We're not going to hit that. Okay, so if we're getting hung up on technicalities in terms of hyperinflation,
I'm more worried about. I'm not. This is not what I'm worried about. I'm worried more about that deflationary environment for Europe, which would then create would actually create a spiral upwards for the dollar. I'm much more. I think that's what they're setting up. I think they're setting up a debt collapse in Europe that we're not going to have to. That we're and Besant and Powell and all of them. I think they're all ready for it. I think they're laying the groundwork for it all of it. I think. And so Venezuela is absolutely about a war between military and the intelligence services. This is about stopping civil war.
I agree with you. I'm just. I think we might just be.
I don't think that there's the secondary aspects of it in terms of economic resources. I think are irrelevant. We can go tomorrow up to Daniel Smith and Alberta, so we're going to move 3 tanks across the border, become a territory.
Right.
We'll give you a pipeline. We can get all the fucking crappy tar sands oil we ever wanted.
I agree with all of that.
Is using the oil as a smokescreen. This is about wiping out Langley and saying to Langley, look, if you want to start a civil war, we're upping the tempo on you. We're taking Venezuela.
So I was getting there. I agree. I happen to agree with you completely. Because
that's why the ship that they took the other day, we didn't hear anything about what was actually on the ship. Right. And we don't know who was flagged by, who the flag was and all the rest of it. I look at that and I just say to myself, yeah, this is about something completely different. This was not about oil, because the oil tankers were all floating around they were all moving. All the flagged vessels, all the legal vessels were moving around the area. The illegal ones were the ones that weren't. And then the Iranians turned right around and seized another boat with quote unquote 6 million gallons of diesel fuel on it. But what else was on that boat? And I think that the more I look at this, the more I think through the process of, how did Trump get to the point where you have the Iranian theocracy is still in charge, but the IRGC and the axis of resistance have been destroyed, right? Let's go back to my original statement here. I'm kind of doing a little bit of vamping. You got Israel basically stabilized, chastised. Netanyahu gets to be Trump's bad guy from here on out to do all the dirty shit that Trump wants done to clean up the region. He's going to give that to Netanyahu, and then Netanyahu's going to leave the scene. It'll be played off by the groypers, and everybody else is, oh my God, the Israelis are still telling Trump that what's going on. Bullshit. Like the strike on Hamas was ordered by Trump and carried out by Netanyahu. That's what I think.
Sure. I agree with you.
Because that's what got us to the peace deal in Gaza.
Said.
Right. So now think all of that through and understand that afterwards we got Qatar Qatar is now our bitch, right? Saudi Arabians are on our side. The Jolani in Syria effectively is on our side. Oh, the one that just popped into my head. What about the Iranian theocracy? They're still in power too. and they get to be who are they working for now? You think they're still working for the French / the British? Or are they working for Putin, a combination of Putin and Trump? So that seizure, that oil tanker could be thought of if that's the case. And that's a big if, and you can salt at the taste, and you call me fucking crazy, and you call me a Trump cocknobber and all the rest of it. I don't give a fuck. I'm here to win and go home. I'm here to play out scenarios that could work itself out. If that's the case, big if, then the Iranians are doing the exact same thing in the Gulf and the Persian Gulf that Trump is doing in the Gulf of America, which is stopping the flow of Azov fuckers and ISIS fuckers to come into the United States to be the officers in the Civil War troops that they've already got stationed here in America. That's what Ian Burlingame is worried about. That's what Blaine Holt's worried about. That's what I'm worried about. That's what everybody should be fucking worried about, because it's completely and utterly clear that these people have decided to move to that stage, and Trump is forcing them into these moves before they're ready. And then he's picking them off. That's what I think is going on.
It's an interesting take. I'm not sure I'm there with you though. Because yes, I do agree that Trump's all about stopping.
That's what this sick video was about, Halsey. That's why they're going to haul Mark Kelly up in front of a court martial, and even if it's not justified, and boom, they're going to take him out. Like, they're not fucking around anymore. That's a warning to the rest of Congress, to the rest of the Senate. Nuke the filibuster and get rid of the fucking blue slips, or you're going to jail too. I mean, why do you declare fentanyl a weapon of mass destruction? In order to be able to bring RICO charges against Canadian banks.
I agree with that as well.
Okay. So I'm throwing all this at the wall here, that the way you beat the color revolution structure is they like to set the operational tempo because they're the ones sitting in the shadows. How do you beat an army that refuses to put its how do you beat an enemy who refuses to put its army on the battlefield? You got to put the army on the battlefield. Like their army's sitting in wait, lying in wait. All these fucking BLM assholes and the Antifa and how many hundreds of thousands of friggin' Somalis and this, that, and everything else they brought into the country, and they brought into Canada. Like, that's their army. Their army's right here. It's staring us in the face. You've got these feckless goddamn blue governors that are all starting to make all of these regional carve-outs, regional alliances about things to resist reforms that Trump is doing at the agency level. So like vaccine mandates and healthcare this and blah, 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 blah. That's all the blue states getting the religion of states' rights. This is all clearly 1859 territory, 1858 territory. That's all I see. And when I look at all those governors that are doing this shit, they're all in control of the friggin' waterways. Trump takes control of the one waterway he still has control over, which is the entrance to the Mississippi Delta.
But what I'm saying is that you have three countries that are essential to the world economy. You have the U.S., Japan, and China. Okay? They're all in such debt crisis that it's only a matter of time before their currency becomes worthless to begin with, or at least needs to have some kind of reevaluation, right? America's out of control with debt. China's out of control with debt, and so is Japan, right? And if they're on par to debase the currency, which I honestly believe they have to do, there's no other way to earn back the money to handle this debt load, especially as the Fed is monetizing the debt. We have no more buyers for our bonds. So it's not like we can just monetize.
I don't buy that. Like I'm looking at the tick report every month, and the numbers keep going up. I'm serious. Like, go look at the tick report. The foreign central banks.
The Fed just announced they had to buy $40 billion a month in U.S. Treasury bonds because no one else will buy them. They just announced that like 2 days ago.
What they're prepping for, Halsey, is the Europeans going through with their threat to dump our Treasury bonds. But every time I look at an auction, the auctions are stopping through. It all depends on with good foreign demand.
But what I'm saying though is that to keep
where is that? So again, I understand what you're saying, but the core economy does not hyperinflate.
I'm not
The
talking about hyperinflation. That's leave
or
that.
whatever. Right. You're going to watch a deflation in Europe. That capital is going to flow into something. It's going to go somewhere.
It
And I
absolutely
agree.
will. I agree with
Yeah.
you. And but the problem is and this is the one issue with Maduro. All of these fuckers who can flood our country with everything, whether it be the drugs, whether it be the traffic, and whether it be the warriors, no matter what it is, right? There's one thing they all have in common: they all have to trade in dollars or euros.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they don't have the ability to trade in gold. They don't have the ability to trade in any kind of commodity because they don't have any commodities, right? So if you shore up our natural resources and
Mm-hmm.
there is a reset on the currency here, China and Japan, you now sell to China, you sell to Japan, you don't have to worry about yuan, you don't have to worry about the yen because you can do transactions in gold. That's why China and Japan have been buying every fleck of
Yeah, no,
gold
we're going back
that
to gold
isn't
standard,
nailed
without a
down.
doubt. Yeah. Yeah, without a doubt. No, I agree. Like the inflation is going to come in the face of 20. I don't know about $20,000 gold or 1 million Bitcoin. The only reason I don't say those numbers is not because I think they're unbelievable. It's because we don't know where the negotiated settlement's going to wind up. Because at
But
the end of the day,
just remember, in the 20s we did this. When Roosevelt took all the gold back, he bought it all back and mandatorily bought it all back at $20 an ounce. The moment he
yes,
had it all, he reevaluated it to $34.50 an ounce.
right,
Right.
agreed.
And there's no reason why they wouldn't do the same with Bitcoin. As I said, you could see them setting it up now.
Oh,
With the,
I'm not. I'm again not arguing with you.
Mhm.
What I'm saying is what they're going to do between now and then is they're going to allow these markets to. They're going to allow these markets to rise. Dude, 2 years ago I said everybody get ready for the fact that the Fed is going to want a higher gold price.
Sure.
Well, it'll bake your noodles. They're going to put Bitcoin on the balance sheet. Now, that was, of course, assuming a world before Trump, where clearly we're setting up for a much lower, a much smaller, leaner, revamped Federal Reserve and a much more powerful Treasury. So we take that old statement, which was made under the old paradigm where the Fed was in control, had monopoly control over the currency, and now adapt it to the new environment where it's clearly we're going to have a treasury that is going to issue gold-backed debt, that's going to issue, that's going to build a treasury of Bitcoin and or gold,
Both.
and in
But
order to be
yeah.
able to I mean, it's clearly there, and the treasuries are going to be, and marginal treasury demand, T-bill demand will be sunk into stable coins in order to liquefy the domestic lending markets,
Hmm.
the domestic banking system, right?
Hmm.
Where the small and regional banks will have access to unlimited friggin' T-bills if they need it in order to do lending, i.e., by issuing their own stable coins in the form of debt proceeds. So you buy a car loan, they issue $25,000 worth of stable coins, $30,000 worth of stable coins for you to buy your car. That they sit the T bills on the balance sheet. You pay 5% on the loan. You pay the thing back. The bank gets it coming and going. Got it. Understood. Now, agreed. The numbers are going to be a negotiated settlement. Is the only argument I'm going to make here, and it's the same argument I made when I first started talking about, what is the leverage of the Fed's balance sheet going to look like when this is all said and done.
Hmm.
The Fed is moving into a role where it is no longer going to be a bank regulator. This went back on one of the rules that they were using to deny people their Fed master accounts, in which Caitlin Long at Custodia Bank was complaining about.
I'm wondering if you're
They went
about
back.
to go back on your own theory. I'm just warning you. I'm listening for it. So let's see. I
What's
want
that?
to see where you're going with this.
I'm going with the fact that the Fed is going to become what I've always said is the guarantor of the international value of the dollar at par, and a backstop of the commercial paper market, and move out of the backstopping the treasury market. But in the short term, it's still going to perform its current role because you have to kill Europe. You have to kill the Eurodollar system, or at least you have to drastically reduce the leverage within the Eurodollar system so that we control it. Then what happens is over the course of time, the Fed can bow out of the treasury market,
Hmm.
still keep effectively they keep the standing repo facility open and all that other stuff, but they no longer have to play that game because the commercial banking system is going to be the thing that regulates the domestic demand for T-bills. right? And U.S. debt, and they go back to backstopping commercial paper. Like I'm thinking about a pre-Banking Act of 1935 Fed structure, where only commercial paper. I'm not talking about 12 regional banks setting 12 regional interest rates. We don't need that. We've got SOFR. So that SOFR effectively re-regionalizes the Fed funds rate anyway. And if you talk to any SOFR trader about that, they'll tell you already that the Fed funds rate doesn't even fucking matter. SOFR's already in charge of the market.
Right.
Okay. So that's where I'm going with. In my head, this is where this has been for a while, and that you use the Federal Reserve as effectively for the Eurodollar systems like the Exim Bank. You want dollars, you're going to pay a market access charge, but domestically, if you want to spend money, we've got your back, yada yada yada. And then dollars circulate domestically at a higher purchasing power than offshore dollars do.
I'm trying to say
I firmly believe that's where we're headed, dude.
So I'm trying to say this in a way where you understand I'm not criticizing you, but because you're I think you're there. I think you're on the wrong branch of the tree. And this is what I mean, right? You have been the biggest cheerleader for Jerome Powell that I've probably ever met, and I'm right on board there with you, just so you know. Okay, but what you're talking about would require him to be what he's not, which is a long-term thinker on how to deal with policy that will shore up over time, but will cause probably more immediate pain. Right? Whereas I see him more as a person that understands the necessity of changing the current paradigm and making it so that what would seem as a huge negative can be turned into somewhat of a positive. Right? So you look at the previous economic disasters in America, right? You have the Great Depression, you have the mortgage collapse in 2008. Right? In 1920, the stock market crashed. But the bond market was pretty much okay, and the real estate market was pretty much okay. Okay, like they had their issues, but they were able to be safe havens when the stock market went to shit. Right? In 2008, it was the same. It was the mortgage market went to shit, but the bond market and the stock market were just fine. Right? And we're able to get us out. Our current crisis has a crisis in all three, which we've never encountered before. Right? But for some reason, they're still reporting that inflation is going down. And Trump, I think that Jerome Powell doth protest too much in that, like, he seems like he doesn't want to lower interest rates because he's afraid of reigniting inflation, but yet he keeps doing it, which you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think it's because of political pressure.
I disagree with you. Powell came out of Jackson Hole and got rid of the 2% inflation target.
No,
he did exactly what Trump wanted him to do. He pushed. He said we're going to look at we're looking at the labor market now. We're going back to the dual mandate with an emphasis on looking at labor. And the labor market if the labor market's not good, we're going to cut interest rates, which is exactly what Trump wants.
But look at what he's doing. If what I'm saying is, and we're both agreeing that it's like kind of coming, it's just we might be disagreeing on severity. But the real issue is, if the currency were to debase at all tomorrow, okay, people are going to get fucking killed, because anyone with their money in savings, also their real estate mortgages the interest rates are just too high. But right now, they're already talking about lowering rates again and instituting a 50-year mortgage. Inflation doesn't hurt you if you have a long-term fixed-rate mortgage at a decent percent. In fact, it helps you because your mortgage payment gets inflated away. You know what I'm saying? Like, your mortgage came in, like, you're in your house for life, and you're not ever
especially
getting rid
if
of
that mortgage is portable or blah blah blah. Like they can move it around and all. They can move the rate around, and there's all sorts of things that they can do. Which is, oh, by the way, I just want to go back to something else. I want to remind you of something you and I may not have talked about yet.
Okay.
Which is the following: I am to the point now where I believe the 2008 financial crisis was engineered.
Sure.
No. I in what way? When you say that?
When I say sure,
who engineered it and why? Who engineered it and why?
Okay, let me think of. I don't want to sound stupid here, so I want to make sure.
I have a very odd theory. So I want you to throw. I want to see what you come up with. Don't worry about it. It's
I was just reading and thinking about this morning, right?
Sure.
And remember, as much as I hate to give him the credit for it, and as much as I hate to say that The Fed, like, obviously, I'm not that big a fan of the Fed. Okay, but the Fed dealt with the mortgage collapse beautifully. Like, yes, I know everybody hates the idea of bailouts, but the TARP program was fucking ingenious. Okay, they took the bad assets off the balance sheets of the banks, put them onto the federal government, just waited till the housing market rebounded, sold them all back into circulation, and made money on the whole deal. Whereas that, I mean, those assets had the ability to literally nuke the entire financial system. Was it engineered? I think they saw what was coming. They saw the idea that Americans were going into massive debt on adjustable rate mortgages that they were never going to be able to pay off, and that we were heading to a period where we could have seen a complete meltdown of the system.
Stop.
Okay.
You are right. You're not thinking through the actual problem.
I'm not there yet.
You said it just now. A 30-year adjustable fixed rate mortgage is your inflation-proof thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only thing that FDR did that I agree with.
Agreed.
So what was the target of the 2008 financial crisis? What are they fighting the fuck out of right now? The target was Fannie and Freddie. The target was
I thought that was just kind of a given.
No. That
the target being Fannie and Freddie is that
it was London. It was London that engineered everything about the 2008 crisis. And then when I went over the timeline of 2008 recently for the newsletter, it was very obvious to me that what they wanted to do was put Fannie and Freddie into lockdown to nationalize the mortgage industry. And then eventually Obamacare would nationalize the healthcare industry, and they'd use the profits from Fannie and Freddie to pay for fucking Obamacare. Mm-hmm. That was but then Lehman Brothers was debt, and AIG. AIG was the grease, was the grease that created that created that was the grease for the gearing, that the leverage that put all those adjustable rate mortgages into the black, right? In the run up. It was AIG that was writing it CDS insurance against these mortgage-backed securities. They were all bullshit. Right. But they were doing it because they could, and so two things stuck out at me when I went back over this. Mm-hmm. One, big question. Interestingly enough, it was something that when I watched a presentation by Heather Pierce when she was at George Mason about 7 or 8 years ago, explain what happened with AIG. And she asked the very simple question: why was AIG bailed out multiple times wholesale? Why? And not bad parts sold off, good parts held on to, broken up, wound down and done with it, right? Mm-hmm. That was the first question. It's your clue, by the way. Because guess where fucking AIG is based?
I know. I'm well aware.
London. I know. London. I'm talking to the audience now. I'm not talking to you. You know fucking shit.
Okay.
And then the second thing is, why did they detonate Lehman Brothers when they knew they had the TARP money coming? They detonated Lehman Brothers in order to cover the shock of the nationalization of Fannie and Freddie and the theft of Fannie and Freddie. That's what they did. That's why it was done. Mm-hmm. It was done that way on purpose. It was not Hank Paulson was just a Goldman guy, which is what Jeffrey Sachs has been out there like throwing around. Oh, that's all bullshit.
That always
they
was
did
bullshit.
This on purpose in order to nationalize Fannie and Freddie to get the United States off of because what is Fannie and Freddie's superpower aside from getting you into a fixed rate mortgage at a relatively low interest rate so that you can deal with the vagaries of inflation like my family did. My dad was in a fucking 3.5% mortgage or 3% mortgage all through the 70s, right? So he was able to deal with the inflation by not having to worry about his fucking mortgage payment. It was only $120 a month, right? No. The goal, the other superpower that Fannie and Freddie have is that they make a mortgage and they make a market in mortgage-backed securities, and they can control the long end of our yield curve. So if you stop to think about this, that means that America no longer has control over the long end of the yield curve like they did under Fannie and Freddie, and the Federal Reserve, which is a British institution, has control over the short end. So when you stop to really watch all of it, what you're looking at is the British wanted control over our entire yield curve, but the long end by having it be by having it in the marketplace, and the short end by controlling the Federal Reserve with shitty Keynesian economics and even its offshoot monetarism and all that other crap. That's all bullshit. Every fucking bit of it is bullshit. So when you stop to go through all of that together, you realize, why do you think they're fighting Fannie and Freddie's relist so hard? Because Fannie and Freddie can then, if they're back in the marketplace, and they can change the terms of the mortgages out from underneath whatever they can start changing the way we the mortgage underwriting rules and everything else, and we can get rid of Dodd-Frank, and we can get the Fed out of the regulation of the fucking banks, and we get rid of the SLR, which we've done, which Powell helped spearhead, the supplemental leverage ratio, like freeing up the capital for the banks to actually fucking lend at rates that we can actually afford here in the United States. This is the problem I have with the whole hyperinflationary argument. We have already lived through a massive hyperinflation. We have already lived through the hollowing out of the middle class because they've been starved of capital since 2008 at every goddamn level. Nationalization of healthcare, no goddamn properly subsidized 30-year freaking market subsidized 30-year mortgage, no control over long-term interest rates, and rising taxes, a war on transportation, a war on energy, a war on every fucking thing about our, and then the poos and the invasion, the pushing up marginal price of housing, insurance, healthcare, all of it. Every fucking bit of it was all designed to do one thing and one thing alone: to destroy the fucking American kulaks and get us and destroy the American middle class. Now we have the opportunity to reset that game board. And while I expect another round of inflation here, I would also argue that you can get through this through a stagflationary environment, which I define differently than everybody else, and you know I do, which I've defined it as the stagnation or deflation of credit-based assets and the inflation of commodity-based assets, because as you start to actually rejigger the economy towards actual production of real things, it's going to put upward pressure on supply chains in a constrained commodity market that's been even more starved of fucking capital than the middle class has for the last 20 years. Gold, silver, copper, lead, potash, all of it. And we're at a moment where I really do believe that we can push through this, where credit-based assets effectively are flat to negative for the next 10 to 15 years. We go through the exact same thing we went through in the stock market, for example, from 66 to 84. We didn't make a new high in the stock market from like 66 to 82. It just traded sideways, right? The lost generation in the S&P 500. We're probably that's one angle on this. Then the next angle is when you start so that's one framework. But then you have the collapse of Europe, and you have all of that capital, and it's going to flow somewhere, right? So just focusing on the debt and not focusing on the potential cash flow, I just think is one of those arguments that's dangerous. You can inflate away the debt by inflating gold to $20,000 an ounce, and like you said, and Bitcoin to $1 million a coin, and silver to $300, $400 an ounce. I agree with you. That's why I'm gold, silver, Bitcoin all day long. Don't be religious about it. Own them all, right? Because clearly we need to reprice the collateral so that we can then use that collateral as the basis for how we get rid of the debt.
That's what I was saying. So
yeah, I know that's exactly what you're saying. I just don't see that it's actually going to show up in the general price level. I just think a lot of those commodities are going to rise. We'll see copper go to from $5.50 to $7 or $8 a pound. We'll see aluminum go to $1.85 to $2. We'll see, but that's only in the short term while we get the production of these commodities back online. We'll watch copper go through we'll watch all of these industrial metals, for example, go through a massive spike and then another collapse over the course
Yeah,
of
but
the
all
next
the industrial
5 years.
metals aren't our collateral. Gold is our collateral, so is Bitcoin.
I agree. So,
So
but they're going to, but
that's also why you haven't
they're
seen the
they're the
silver market
consequence of the
doing what.
repricing of the collateral is what I'm getting at. Also.
Because the
And
silver market, that's why
reindustrialization.
you can see that the pricing on silver market is literally just it's what's it called? It's being manipulated. Whereas with gold, you can't put gold on the market right now because every time you do, or every time you bid more for gold, China, Japan, and us buy every fucking fleck of it
Every bit of
that
it.
isn't there.
Every bit
But
of
we're
it.
not doing the same with silver, which is, by the way, how Britain, the pound silver, is
Yeah, I
trying
know.
to.
I'm worried.
They just,
I am actually worried about that, but I don't think it's. I
it's
do
not a big
believe
problem.
that. Well, I was talking to Vince Lanci about this the other day, and what Vince is saying is it's very clear that there are a number of countries, including China, including Japan, and including India, that are all building a tokenized silver asset,
Mm-hmm.
and they're desperately trying to get the silver. And in his mind, it looks like J.P. Morgan is just sitting on the other side of the trade because they're the marginal supplier of physical silver into the world because they're the ones that have all the banking. They're all the ones that have the banking relationship with all the silver producers
Mm-hmm.
around the world. And so Morgan's got the physical, and they can decide, who's going to make money on it. So all I'd say is that silver's definitely moving into a different pricing regime,
Mm-hmm.
but it's definitely also it's also being pumped, and then it's going to dump. Well, I don't know where the pump is going to go to, and I don't know where the dump is going to come back to, but clearly $65 an ounce on silver is not the end of this.
Right.
That's all I'm going to say.
But
Or at least certainly
I
for
went
this
on a rant
table.
about this the other night, and it was funny because half the people that were in the space that I went on the rant about it, I wish I
Mhm.
recorded it, but I didn't. They were telling me that what I was saying didn't make any sense to them, and I was like, that maybe I'm just like, I'm thinking about it in a different way. What you said
Mhm.
is dead right about the Fed and Fannie and Freddie being an arm of let's just call it Davos, but I know we're talking about the Bank of London. Okay, but let's just call it Davos for the fun of it,
Right.
right? The control that they have over Fannie and Freddie is not a control of a monetary system. It's a control of a political system. Why do I say
Mhm.
that? Because
Mhm.
Europe understands better than anybody, and why they want us in the sinking ship with them, that immigration is poison, right? And that if there's any, like, if they're going to beat us in this, they need us in the same boat because they know that the immigrants we're bringing in are 10,000 times worse than them, because them,
Mhm.
they just have, bloodthirsty Muslims. We have actual terrorists. We have actual Ukrainian terror groups, Azov battalion. We have the worst of the worst trying to get in here. But when you
Mhm.
look at the last maybe 5, 6 years of Fannie and Freddie lending, it's almost all to illegals.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Yep.
there's nothing to be gained for us by illegals being in good fixed rate mortgages guaranteed by the government. All it does is give them political control. Same as
Yes.
Obamacare. And you're seeing
Yes.
them how they do it right now, right? Like what they do is they institute a new credit for Obamacare. Everyone gets used to it. And then as soon as they try to take it away because it was temporary in the first place, they say you're trying to take everyone's health care. Healthcare costs
Right.
spiral out of control. People get pissed and they vote for Democrats,
Right.
right? Because remember, voting for Democrats is voting for Europe. There's literally no difference. They are the exact same
Yep.
thing.
Yep.
So the control over Fannie and Freddie is the goal to keep the immigrants here. Okay,
Mhm.
is to keep them flowing in at a rate where getting rid of the immigrants will cause so much pain to us, because again, if Fannie and Freddie are foreclosing on all the immigrants' houses,
That,
right? Well, I'm
that's not
not.
what's
No,
going to
wait. Let me
happen.
finish. I know it's not,
Yeah.
because I'm
Right.
saying this would be the path not taken. The path not
Mhm.
taken is that they're going to foreclose on all the immigrants. The path that will be taken is that every American that's in a mortgage with just their regular bank is going to get completely fucked. Okay, while the immigrants who all have these government backed mortgages are going to be just fine. So, in order to prevent a complete detonation of the mortgage market, the argument can be, well, we have to stop the mass deportations, we have to do this. The job market's falling, the consumption is falling, the real estate market's in turmoil, our debt is in turmoil, all of this shit, right? That keeps control, because usually when you have a financial crisis, it's the rich that benefit, But in this one, it's the voting poor that benefit, the voting immigrants, illegal immigrants, I might add, and the Democrats that benefit from the turmoil. Right? They're the ones who are going to keep their houses. They're the ones that are going to be voting in our next power structure. Remember, the Democrats take the House, Senate, and presidency again. They're nuking the filibuster and instituting everything they've ever wanted.
I get it. I don't think it. There's two things about this. Yes. Now let's remember the most important word in the English language relative to all of this: assumable.
Yep.
Assumable. What do I mean by that? FHA mortgages are assumable. Deport the illegal that's in that house and offer that mortgage. That mortgage is assumable by anybody else.
Yep.
Now, a lot of these houses are all starter houses. It's like, let's talk about what we're dealing with here. I went through the math on this, and I
have two, just so you know. So we're on the same page here. Let's do this.
Which is that let's go through the basics, right? The average starter house in the United States is defined as a starter home, roughly 1,300 to 1,400 square feet on a third of an acre, blah, 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 blah. $260,000. Income times 3 for a young couple making a couple bucks over minimum wage, or, right around 19 to 20 bucks an hour. It's about 70 grand.
Okay.
Do the math, right? Like my daughter's making, I don't know, $16, $17 an hour. So that translates to 32 grand a year. You can get that number into the 200 to 210, maybe 220 range. So there's a gap there, and that gap is sincere. But most of that rise in the cost of a starter home in the United States happened in the last 3 years.
Yep.
It was 210 or 20. It was $200,000 during the height of the Biden junta, right? So it's really been So a lot of that. So we have to go back and start thinking about, well, if they were handing all these mortgages to illegals back in 2021, 2020, 2022, blah, 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 it was ramping up, right? Then those mortgages are all been paid on for 3 or 4 years. They were all $175,000 to $90,000 loans to start out with. They've only got $160,000 left on them on average, getting up to the ones that were given out last year to 230, 240. Fine, whatever. But those numbers are close enough for a young couple because we've already had the wage inflation. This is the part I've been trying to get through people's heads. Minimum wage in the United States is $13 to $16 an hour for a halfway decent entry level job. Now, are the entry level jobs available to white Americans? No. DEI made sure that white people couldn't get jobs. Okay, fine, but that's ending very quickly. Okay, so now these kids are all going to be able to get entry-level jobs. They're going to be able to get back into the workforce and start assuming these mortgages as we deport these fucking people.
I turned my camera off for a minute, but just so you know, I'm smirking at you because you just totally stole my thunder by cutting me off, but keep going.
Okay, well, I'm literally, you and I are just like brothers from another mother. What else? What else is new? Right. So this is what's going on here. These mortgages are all, I've been thinking about this for 9 months. I've been talking about this shit. 6-7 months now. It popped into my head. Why did I understand this? Because my first mortgage was an assumable FHA mortgage. The only reason I know this, my first house, I assumed a little, 1,300 square foot bungalow off another guy who couldn't pay the note that was originally $52,900, and I assumed it at $49,300, and qualified for it, took the note over, closing costs were minimal, moved into the house in 30 days. It was easy. That's going to happen like wildfire over the course of the next couple of years. And that's what Fannie and Freddie getting a chance to help control the long end of the yield curve is going to do. And also blunts the threat of Europe dumping our treasury bonds on the market in order to try and hit that. Let me go back to what I was talking about earlier.
Okay, and then I'm gonna have some fun with you for a minute. But go ahead.
Sure. Let me just remind everybody of one thing. We've gone through the tariff tantrum. We've gone through them screaming about every goddamn thing imaginable. And the 10-year bond this year has dropped more than 50 basis points. We have no control of the long end of our yield curve.
Mm-hmm.
We have barely any control over the short end of our yield curve, for Christ's sake.
Okay.
They've been selling 10s and 30s to buy 1s and 2s to create a fucking fake yield curve inversion that's been going on forever. Everybody's screaming, "Oh, see, there's going to be a recession. There's going to be this. There's going to be that." All these things have not really come to bear. We're 50 to 60 basis points lower on the 10-year than we were before, and every time the 10-year tries to get anywhere towards 4.25%, foreign central banks come in and buy it. Every time they try and push every time the Bank of England and the Bank of Canada, which they're the ones doing this fucking gig, Mark Carney and Andrew Bailey, every time they try to push our 30-year bond towards 5%, someone comes in and buys it. You got to ask yourself who, because it's happening. Remember, when you hear the words failed bond auction, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't freak out. You have to remember at what price.
Right.
Right. So if you see a large bond offering and the price on US 30s is somewhere south of 475, and then Zero Hedge comes down and the auction goes off and Zero Hedge writes some inflammatory fucking article like they always fucking do. Oh, failed bond auction, tailing, bad bid to cover, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, yeah, what fucking price?
Right.
Because they tried to sell it off at 469, and if had they gone at 475, it would have been the greatest bond auction since sliced bread.
Sure.
So again, remind everybody, price matters. That's all I'm saying. So I watch this shit very, very carefully, and I watch how they manipulate spreads and the internal spreads within the U.S. yield curve. And I'm telling you, dudes, I'm not seeing any friggin' stress here. As a matter of fact, what I'm seeing is that Powell can cut another 25 basis points in January with no problem whatsoever, and the T-bill market will happily lap it all up. Because the belly of the U.S. yield curve, the inversion is practically gone. It's practically gone. Go look at the yield curve.
I know. The thing is, I know what you're talking about. The thing is like, I feel like you're missing what I'm saying, because we're saying kind of the same thing. We're just looking at it from a different beneficiary. Okay. Mm-hmm. The assumable mortgages, again, we've talked about it. I've also known about this. I've actually pretty much put it front and center in what I was thinking. Okay. Mm-hmm. Is that, again, let's go back to what I originally said. Gold at 20,000, Bitcoin at $1 million, shores up our balance sheet, but debases our currency, right? We hit a period of inflation. Now, again, we can disagree on that, but what I'm saying
I think net there'll be some inflation, certainly for the lower class. I don't think anybody can get around commodity inflation, given how badly I mean, look at the capex to GDP in the oil industry. The numbers are horrific, right? Mm-hmm. Horrific. So go ahead.
So in a period of inflation, right? When we're talking about what I'm talking about debasing the currency. Okay, now you have three things. One, you have a younger population that's going to see wage increases because they have to, because the currency is worth less, mm-hmm. right? You have a drive for younger people to be working for more money, even though that money is worth less. But mm-hmm. you have a glut of homes at an affordable interest rates that are assumable, that are basically inflation bulletproof. Okay. Mm-hmm. So now you debase the currency, you shore up our balance sheet with gold and Bitcoin, and now you have a younger generation who, instead of being murdered by the inflation, is actually a beneficiary of it. They can get mm-hmm. into houses that have now been vacated yep. by all the illegals that we're throwing out. They can yep. get into them at fixed rates at original prices, right? Because mm-hmm. Fannie and Freddie are not going to inflate the prices. They're just going to assume out the mortgage. So yep. now all of the people who are talking about revolution now, it's time for civil war, I can't afford a house, can now not only afford a house, but their new currency, because they have no savings, they weren't really hit by the inflation. The inflation murders savings. It doesn't murder wages. Wages rise in inflationary times. You know what else does? Yep. Retirement.
What's that?
Retirement also rises. It's pegged to inflation. Social Security, right? Mm-hmm. So the two most vulnerable people that you would have, the older people because they vote, the younger people because they have the ability to actually make war, right? Mm-hmm. Are completely placated by the idea of A, the illegals being stopped from coming in, B, the inflation driving up their wages without hurting them in the actual marketplace, because the place where inflation hurts the most is savings. And they don't have any savings. Okay. And they're able to get into houses that are basically given to them for free because the mortgage rates aren't on par with inflation. Inflation makes the interest rate unnecessary. You're basically getting a house for free because the inflation is going to pay off your mortgage. You know, all of it. Like as I said, I knew we were on the same street. I just didn't think we're like the one hard part with this. And I gave this a lot of thought, and I was trying to think of how to word it properly to say, because when I saw this analysis that he asked me to do, I was thinking like the one negative to anything like this is always going to be, but the government's balance sheet is still out of control. And with the balance sheet being out of control, we can't just print money willy-nilly in a period of inflation, right? It would bankrupt us if our debt's spiraling out of control. Every rise in interest rate murders us, right? But under this scenario that I just laid out for you, our balance sheet is shored up with $20,000 gold and $1 million Bitcoin. And you know who else's is? China's and Japan's, which is where we need, because remember, we don't have the ability. This whole concept of bringing American jobs back to America has always been bullshit. You can't do it. We don't have the bodies. The only way we bring manufacture back to America is if we start importing millions of illegals again. Okay? That's not happening. It maybe can happen over a 20-year period, but you're not getting...
This is a generational shift, is what this is.
But with that being said, China would be more than happy to go along with $20 gold and $1 million Bitcoin. They have both in spades. So does Japan. Okay?
So does Japan, so does Russia.
So if the U.S. comes out tomorrow and says we've just acquired this much Bitcoin and this much gold, we're reevaluating it on our balance sheet to $20 an ounce for gold and $1 million for Bitcoin, their balance sheet gets cut by, I want to say, $9 trillion right off the bat. Okay? The only way that doesn't work for us, that it doesn't send us into Weimar Republic hyperinflation, is if the rest of the world goes along with it. And guess what? Who's the only people not holding gold or Bitcoin? That would be Europe. That would be. Everyone else has got it, and they've been acquiring it like crazy.
I just don't think it's going to be an overnight. I just don't think it's going to be an overnight revaluation. I think it's going to be one of those things where we're going to grab everything we can, and then it's going to. I just think I'll be honest with you, and again, going back to some of the conversations I've had with Vince, who can clearly see in the marketplace the actual futures market and the trading data, that the United States and China are trading off how they're fucking London. Yep. You go from our turn to your turn and back and forth. So right now it's China's turn, and we're not really buying gold right now. But wait until the Chinese New Year kicks in, and they're out of the market.
We don't need any gold. Just to tell you the truth, we don't have to acquire more gold.
Gold is going to continue to rise. What's that?
But we don't even have to acquire more gold. We have fucking 83 metric tons of it.
I know, but we are acquiring it because we want to make sure that we want to push the price higher. So and we're using Japan to do this, by the way.
Yep. I agree with you.
I don't remember if I don't think you are. You're not. I don't think you're a subscriber anymore, but that's fine. About a week ago, and I actually put this market report out public. It's the one from 12/10. And I go into the whole yen carry trade, the unwinding of the yen carry trade, a week before we get the news that, the Bank of Japan is going to raise interest rates, which, by the way, I knew they were going to do. I understood that Powell was going to cut and Japan was going to raise.
Well, you also have to be kind of stupid to not realize it, but I hear you.
No, there's a lot of people out there who are fucking stupid, Halsey.
I was about to say there are a lot of stupid people out there.
And a lot of them run hedge funds.
Yep.
And a lot of them speak in the financial commentary, and they don't know what the hell they're talking about. And a lot of them are libertarians. So, I use my evil scare quotes when I do that because they're not really libertarians; they're fucking Marxists. But they just don't know it yet. But
I'm still smirking at you, by the way. But now everyone can see me smirking at you because you missed
fine.
You
made
the original point.
I want you to smirk at all of this.
But you made the original point, then you dropped it, and now we're going to come back to it, and you're going to go, "Holy shit! Where did I miss this?" So go ahead.
No. So just to remind everybody that for the first half of last year, the United States was debasing the currency. Japan was not. Japan was actually strengthening the yuan. The yen. We were debasing we were selling dollars and buying gold for all
Yep.
intents and purposes. So what we were doing is how we were built. We were bankrupting the LBMA, and that's how we were moving gold from the 2000s up into the threes. And that was done in order to, while Powell holds interest rates flat, that was done to support Trump's ability to have leverage in the trade negotiations last year, right? Okay, so we have a debasing currency, we have high interest rates, we've got, all of those things putting massive pressure on the Eurodollar system. Eventually, late July, von der Leyen finally comes to the table, cuts a trade deal with the United States. The United States stops debasing the dollar. Who picks up the debasement game right after that? But the Japanese. Go look at the Euro-Yen cross.
I know. I analyzed all of this.
I know you know. I'm talking to the audience. Like we are not. You are not. You and I are not necessarily having a conversation here. We are presenting a thesis to. Yes, we are educating here. And then the Japanese did this, and they're normalizing monetary policy.
Yep.
So watch what everybody else is doing. And by the way, throughout all of this, the SMB went back to the zero bound, and Lagarde and Bailey both had to cut 3 more times while Powell was holding interest rates high. Now they're both cutting it. Now Lagarde's not cutting, but she will. She doesn't have a choice. So she'll hold off for as long as she can, and then she'll have to start cutting again. Like, it's all staring you right in the face. We haven't even gotten to fucking Russia and the fact that and Ukraine, and the fact that they stole Russia's foreign exchange reserves, and that's why they can't not go to war, and how Trump's got them like coming and going over this, and this is how he's going to get us out of fucking NATO.
I'm right there with you. I'm just surprised
I know you are.
Connected the dot yet.
Dude.
You're still missing the dot.
What's that?
You're still missing it. You're missing
Which
what
one?
I originally said that you disagreed with, which I'm telling you, I think you're wrong. Okay? Who's the problem? The problem is Europe. You said it yourself. The problem being Europe means the problem is also Iran, Hezbollah, Ukraine. These are the people that are the problem, right?
Right.
So, if we shore up, again, going back to my original thing, gold at 20,000, Bitcoin at $1 million, right? That's the play. Now, go back to why are we starting some shit with Venezuela? Why are we shoring up our own oil and doing all of this? Because China and us have a very, very unique, similar situation in that our debt is crushing us and our economies are intertwined, right? If we have the commodities to sell, who has to buy them? China and Japan. Why? Because the euro is worth shit. And the only thing that the illegal markets in Iran and the illegal markets in Russia and the Middle East, who is just awful, the only thing they can transact in is debased dollars. You have to understand, in order for our debasement to not kill us, China and Japan have to go along with it. Remember, that's the whole crux of modern monetary theory is we can decide what our money is worth, right? Like, basically. So the whole point is that if we debase our currency with gold and Bitcoin, which, as I said, China and Japan have plenty of, as long as both of them are buying commodities, they have to pay us in whatever we want them to pay us in, right? And the only thing Europe and the Middle East have are fucking dollars. They can't send any more immigrants here. The immigrants don't have shit, and they don't have the money to do it anyway. Hezbollah is completely neutered at that point because all of their criminal activities, they're in cash. They're not able to conduct in real gold. Like, you could do individual transactions, but they're not importing metric tons of gold. If they did, they would lose it instantly. Same thing with Iran. If Iran tried to charge gold, people would just tell them to go fuck themselves. They don't need their oil that bad, right?
Right.
When you do what I think is coming, and I truly do believe this, especially looking at the numbers, everything you said is right. I'm not disagreeing with you, but that's why you shore up the oil from Maduro. Okay, we have enough commodities now to sell to Europe. And meaning we starve Iran in the axis of resistance because they don't have to sell the oil to Europe and nobody wants them to in the first place, right? We have to. They won't go to Russia because they're still trying to pretend that Russia is the bad guy, okay? They have to come to us, and China, India, and Japan are now taken care of because we can conduct business between each other with our new gold and our new Bitcoin price. Whereas we can conduct business with each other where it doesn't hurt either of us. But it murders the Saudi royal family, it murders the Iranians, it murders Hezbollah, and it neuters Europe.
Well, then, and that's why the Saudis are investing in the United States.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're trying to get rid of as many dollars as they possibly can. And just so you know, look, I'm going to get some shit from my Israeli friends about saying this. That's why I don't think it's such a bad thing that Trump is selling F-35s to Saudi Arabia and possibly to Qatar too. As much as I hate Qatar, Qatar is the Muslim Brotherhood. They're evil people. But just remember, there's only 300,000 of them, and they're us. Okay? Qatar is us, but they're not us, me and you. They're us, Joe Biden and the deep state.
They're an old British. They're an old British issue.
But what's Trump's whole thing? Trump has been pumping Qatar and blowjobbing Qatar and making everything with Qatar. No one can understand it. Everybody sits back and goes, "Oh my God, he's selling us out."
He's stealing Qatar from the fucking British.
Which is why he's going to sell them F-35s too. Because the only choice that Europe is going to have is to try to start a war with Israel.
It's also why he's schmoozing fucking Jelani while leaving all of the problems in Syria and Turkey and the region to Erdogan, who refuses to stop playing footsie with his fucking European benefactors.
Exactly. So what I'm saying is that the end result of shoring up, and again, I'm going to take shit from my friends for saying this because I don't say this often enough. I only say this when I'm talking to people who aren't ideologically driven, right? Mm-hmm. The reason that Trump is cozying up to Qatar and protecting Qatar, the reason he's cozying up to Saudi Arabia is because the Democrats think they own Qatar and the Democrats hate Saudi Arabia. And that's Europe. Remember, the Democrats are Europe.
And
Qatar,
then notice.
Yep, and then Qatar switches to us in an instant. The only reason they're constant, and I know, look, I have no love for Islam. I think Islam is evil. I think what the Qataris do with all their influence is somewhat evil. Okay? But at the same time, who are they appeasing by it? They have nothing to gain from pumping woke bullshit into Europe. And yes, it makes us a little more apt to accept immigrants and whatever, but they're appeasing their Democrat/European masters. Right?
Halsey. Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. Now tie it in. Tie it into American domestic political dust-ups.
That's where I'm going. So
I know that's where you're going. I'm picking it up right here, right now. What did fucking Marjorie Taylor, drama queen, say on 60 Minutes as the breaking point for her with Trump? Letting Jelani, that guy from Syria, Qatar, and that butcher from Saudi Arabia, which she called the guy who killed an American journalist. That is British MI6 fucking language all the way down the line, because everybody fucking knows if you mention the name Jamal Khashoggi, then you don't get killed an American journalist. You get that guy was a British fucking asset, killed in fucking Turkey and blamed on MBS by Erdogan.
Even if MBS did it, since when have we ever given a flying shit about one guy that got killed by an Arab regime? When have we ever given a shit?
The fact that she couched it in those terms was a clear freaking signal that she's an intelligence operative.
Yep. Same thing with Tucker.
And I'm like,
that's why they're letting Tucker get away with what he's doing.
I'm like, it's the same goddamn thing. And I'm like, guys, I said it. My spidey sense was MTG, AOC. It was, and they were created at the exact same time for the exact same reason, straight out of central casting. Except the Democrats got the fucking hot Latina from the Bronx, and we got guerrilla armed grouper face from fucking North Georgia. Like, fuck off. Like they were so. I mean, we couldn't at least get the hot one. No, we're not allowed to get the hot one. Like,
but what I'm saying is that everybody that lost their mind about Trump with Qatar and the Muslim Brotherhood and all of this, the idea is that in Qatar, and this is going to happen. It's not. I'm not saying I think this will happen. Qatar will eventually be put to a decision. Do they want to do business through Iran, which is what they're doing now, okay, and basically Europe, or do they want to do business through us? Because Iran's not going to just go completely quietly into that good night, right?
No, and
So we have CENTCOM
this is
in Qatar.
this is an interesting angle. I was just doing another show before you and we popped onto this one, and one of the things that popped out at me, and I think we didn't talk about it here, maybe we did, which is that why did Iran seize that oil tanker?
Mm-hmm.
That was, again, no flag, no flag information about it, nothing else other than 6 million barrels of 6 million gallons of diesel fuel oil. Nothing else about the tanker. So here I have a question for you, Halsey. I know this is probably going to and again, I'm just vamping here. Trump, as I said earlier, Trump has been playing the whole I will be the bad guy to clean up the mess left behind by the British and the French.
Mm-hmm.
Again, he left the Iranian theocracy in charge, pissing off every fucking crazy fucking Mark Levin style neocon in the world, while he then turns around and gets the Justice Department, who's the only person he can actually indict is John fucking Bolton, right?
Mm-hmm.
Another crazy
be thrown out too, by the way.
So
that'll be thrown out too. That'll be thrown out down the line.
Of course it will, because because Grassley. Now, my point is that what if Iran, the theocracy, now that they have no axis of resistance through the IRGC, back through the British and the French and everything else, Hezbollah is gone, the Houthis are pretty much done, blah, 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 all of this. The IRGC has been, I mean, again, think about what Israel, I know you know this, I'm just talking in general now and reminding myself of all of this stuff. What was mostly hit and what were we told was hit on the first night of the war? IRGC headquarters, this IRGC general, this guy, that guy, this guy, that guy. It was all that. And somehow the Ayatollah, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it wasn't because he was hiding in a fucking bunker. Maybe it was because he was hiding in a bunker. Maybe if they could have gotten them, they would have gotten them. Or what better way to have continuity and leave Iran as a country in a very ugly state where the Ayatollah just got his ass kicked, and if he wants to actually keep the popular uprising against him from happening, he now has to start playing fucking ball.
Nope, it's not that he has to start playing ball. That isn't it,
or whatever. It's that effectively he has to not rebuild the axis of resistance.
What?
And cut ties with Europe.
The cut ties with Europe, yes. Why are they going to have to cut ties with Europe? You're just missing the one little point. You're going to again. You're right there.
Go for it. Fill me in. I'm happy to.
Why does Iran matter? Right? Because we hit all that shit in Iran. The theocracy is still in charge, and what makes no sense and can easily just be written off as that Trump said no and that he's a complete pussy or whatever. There's no reason why Israel would have just left like that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason is if they were executing a very precise plan. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Again, go back to what I'm just going to keep saying it because again, the audience. Go back to what I said. Gold and Bitcoin. Okay. Iran basically has neither. But you know what else Iran doesn't have? Dollars. Okay, because they're sanctioned. Yep. They don't have any dollars. Okay. Mm-hmm. We left Iran completely weakened. We're arming the piss out of their neighbors who they don't particularly like, Qatar and Saudi Arabia. Mm-hmm. Okay. We're giving them no out through Turkey because Turkey is thrown its lot in with Europe, which is probably the dumbest thing it could have ever done. Okay.
I agree.
If China and Europe can't buy Iranian oil anymore, which if Europe tries to, why would you want euros? Euros are shit, and they're only going to get worse, especially if we go if we shore up our balance sheet with gold and Bitcoin, right? The people that are going to buy from Iran are us. Why? Because debased dollars aren't debased to them. They don't hold dollars. They haven't lost the value. Whatever their value is at the time, the inflation doesn't hit them. Same thing goes
for the Russians. The Russians don't have any dollars either. So when we go to invest in, that's why Trump wants the friggin' peace deal and the investment deal. This is, again...
but this is why Trump hasn't pushed the peace deal, by the way. I know he likes to play lip service to it because he wants to make it seem like he gives a fuck. But he hasn't pushed the peace deal with Russia and Ukraine because he knows that the peace deal is probably not going to be good for either of them right now. Because Europe is still going to push for war, and they're constantly going to undermine the Russians. And the Russians are going to have to, in many different ways, still be involved with Iran, the axis of resistance, Venezuela, all of them. You can't get them away from them without completely crushing Putin's national prestige. Okay, but you get rid of the theocracy because they just can't survive. Okay, they're able to sell oil now in debased dollars that haven't debased to them. To them, they're going to be swimming in money because they've never been hit by the inflation. Neither has Putin. Okay, so the only people that can sell the oil to Europe are all going to tell Europe to go fuck themselves when they want to trade in euros. They can trade in silver, they can trade in international currency, they can trade in gold, but they are not getting fuck all for the euro, right? And all of the capital that's been kind of holding on in Europe is gone. Okay, who was it recently? It's Rolls-Royce. Rolls-Royce recently announced they're moving their production of jet engines to America because they can't keep up with the net zero regulations coming out of Europe. So I think it's like what 40,000 jobs to Britain gone. Okay, as of right now, debase the currency with gold and Bitcoin, shore up the commodities I'm not claiming he is doing it like this, but it seems that the whole thing about Trump and Putin kind of like talking back channel and getting shit done. Shore up Venezuela, get it away from Hezbollah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, because that's all we want. We don't care if they get away from Russia or China.
Putin wants out of Venezuela. He doesn't want to be in there anymore.
Because he doesn't need the oil. That's the point.
Right.
So all he needs right now is the fact that they're hooked into the Middle East and his partners, the Hezbollah, Iran, all of them. Okay,
he knows he needs to get out of those as well.
Agreed, but I'm saying we're giving him a complete out. But if we debase our own currency, now look, what has Trump done? And I'm trying to see the whole picture here, and I'm trying not to sound like I'm crazy because I know I'm not. I try to look at the whole picture the best I can. Right. Trump has been deporting any illegal that's humanly possible. Even during the government shutdown, even with the Democrats, no matter what. We have been hiring ICE agents like fucking gangbusters. They're taking 50-year-olds that have diabetes as ICE agents. Okay? They don't give a fuck. They just want them out. All of the immigrants out. We have stopped immigration.
You're building a quasi-military organization that can move outside of, that's under the direct control of the president, that can move outside of the chain of command that Congress can wrench back if they need to. Right.
Also, you have all of these immigrants that were coming from African and Muslim nations. He's cut them all off. Every last one of them. He literally put the travel ban on, and he's getting it now. Like there's no like bullshit like last time. Like, oh, that's too mean. Like they're just doing it. Okay. He's getting Hezbollah out of Venezuela because Hezbollah is dead. Okay, their whole reason for living is illegal running, drugs, and human trafficking. I already said, and simple cash businesses within the United States where they get all their money from. They own gas stations, they own strip clubs, they own all the shit that focuses on cash. Right. Hezbollah and Iran are only still alive because of their American dollars. They have nothing else. They have no gold reserves. They have no oil reserves. Iran does, but again, that's neither here nor there for the purpose of this. Okay? They don't have the ability to conduct business internationally in a way where if countries decide to stop with them, that they can't survive. Okay? Final death sentence. Iran cannot conduct business outside of Iran. The theocracy is dead. Okay? Because as of right now, the only thing they could do is accept dollars from Europe, from China, from Africa. If the dollar is debased, that's going to murder them because that means all their oil is debased. Right? Get rid of the theocracy, reevaluate Bitcoin and gold to where it needs to be to shore up our balance sheet. Fannie and Freddie, go bye-bye and go back to the private market, but we have now assumable mortgages that literally take the entire inflation and interest equation out of young people buying homes because they don't have savings. They haven't been hurt by the inflation. In fact, they will be helped by it because the only thing they'll see is a rise in wages. The one people that everyone would demonize and say, oh my God, you're killing the old people. Sorry, Social Security's pegged to inflation. The more inflation we have, the better it is for Social Security recipients. Okay? We have China still handling, making our Tylenol and making our bullshit while we decide what we're going to do on manufacturing. We trade between the three of us only in gold, back currency, gold, or not back currency, gold, Bitcoin, and newly redone American dollars, which they don't own that much of. Okay, they're not swimming in our debt anymore. Okay, they still hold some, but it doesn't matter. Okay, they'll take the hit if we reevaluate Bitcoin and gold because they'll make it up right there.
Right. Because
You
they
crush
easily
Hezbollah.
offset each other. Yeah.
You crush
No, and the
Hezbollah.
same thing. This goes all the way back to this is why the whole idea of the Trump Core 5 makes perfect sense, which is this an extension of my argument about ARC, America, Russia, China. This is the new argument. The only thing he's doing is adding Japan into the mix, which he should, because Japan needs to be liberated from the British, which they are. And then you try and schmooze India, which I don't buy worth a shit, because I think that the Indians still work for the fucking British.
They do, but they're getting away from it.
They're trying. Well, yeah, we'll see. They like Erdogan like to play both sides against the middle and think that they're better at scamming everybody than they actually.
But you know, you probably missed because for some reason I can't figure out why. That, like, obviously I'm suggesting why, but they haven't publicized this much at all. Okay, EM talks about it. I've talked about it for a long time. Okay, the Indians made an announcement a while ago that they want to onshore all of their domestic military production. Okay, and they want to create their own weapons. Okay, they just signed, I think it's a $200 billion cooperation deal where Israel's going to do it for them, which Israel can do, by the way. Israel's the Silicon Valley of the Middle East. Like, right. they can develop whatever the fuck India needs, right? Now, what does all this matter? Because I want to address I'm kind of looking at the chat, and I knew they were going to get there. I don't think you are, but I think they were I knew they were. They're saying that Europe and America are so tied together that we die without each other. They're kind of right. Wait a minute. They're kind of right. But what does all of this we're talking about mean? It means Europe's got to play ball. It means they've got to start doing something about their immigration issues. They have to start doing something about their social welfare issues. They have to get rid of this whole idea of climate change and all this stupid shit. They have to get back on board to a Thatcherian type of system, which is already happening, by the way. Okay? Either they bring us down with them or we force them to come up with us. Okay?
Well, that's, I guess, what Trump is trying to do.
Right, which is exactly what they're trying to do. If Trump wanted to, he could have just told Europe to go fuck itself at any point and probably had all the support from America to do so. Right.
Well, I think what he needs to do is he's trying to break the European Union, clearly, and I think he's given the Italians Hungary and all the Visegráds are one thing, but it's Italy that is the big thing, because what is Italy saying? Our sovereign gold is ours. It is not pledged to the shareholders or any foreign central banks.
Yep.
Also, Meloni can only say that if she feels politically powerful enough to be able to make that statement publicly and say it to the EU's face, and say it to Mattarella's face, and say it to Renzi's face, and say it to the Pope's fucking face.
Right.
That's it. You got to realize that Italy is the tripod of European power, and the French. I'm watching, and again, dude, I've been watching this carefully, and I can go look at French Italian bond spreads. Go look at German Italian bond spreads. The Italian BTP is being repriced as the reserve asset, the safe haven asset of Europe. And Lagarde is desperately trying to hold the line on the German 10-year, and she can't do it. I've been following this shit day in and day out for 3.5 fucking years. And when I finally looked at the bond spreads, and dude, I'm telling you, you could go through a chapter and verse. I don't know if I showed you these freaking charts that I've got of spikes in the both the French, Italian, and German Italian bond spreads.
Yep.
Like, and they correlate directly to pivotal geopolitical days since the Biden-Trump debate in June of last year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, which is when the turn happened.
Mm-hmm.
And every time, and all of those spikes are from big events where Lagarde had to come in and manipulate the German 10-year to keep it from moving. And then because it didn't move, that meant the spread between Italy and Germany widened, and then it would go right back down again within 2 days. But she was in there desperately trying to hold the friggin' thing under control. And then maybe the Bank of England would then come in and support the U.S. bond market in order to support the German bond market. That's what's been going on. It's been going on all the fucking time. Now, here's the big thing that I want to throw at everyone. I don't think we need to do this, but I think turnabout is fair play, and what's good for the goose is good for the gander, which is the following. If you listen to the rhetoric coming out of Europe right now, in no way, manner, shape, or form are they going down without a fight. They are telling you we would rather burn the world to the ground like the fucking Joker by burning a big pile of fucking money than knuckle under.
Yep.
And because of that, so and they put this shit into the mouths of assholes like Joseph Borrell and Donald Tusk and Guy Verhofstadt and all these fucking assholes. Never put it they can't put it in the mouths of heads of state. They can't put it in the mouths of Emmanuel Macron or Queer Stalin or Ursula von der Satan or any of these fucking people. You've got to put it in the hands of either people who used to work for them directly, or it's the same thing with the Democrats. When they want to trial balloon something, they hand the crazy stuff to people like Al Green and Maxine fucking Waters. It never comes out of Schumer's mouth first. It always goes theirs first. They trial balloon the shit there. Same thing here. They're saying flat out, we are at war with the United States.
I know.
And that means they're going to go for this. And what I'm telling you is that that's the case, and they want to go to that rhetoric over Ukraine. You watch. You watch the split in real time.
I'm national security at you again.
The national security doctrine is telling you flat out, it's a divorce decree. It's a divorce set of separation papers, and they're waiting. We're waiting for the day when they finally say that's enough, and they start the process. And when they start that process, we're going to cancel the fucking QSIP, so we're not going to have to worry about that fucking debt.
You're missing it again, just a little bit, not much, just a tiny little bit.
Why would we continue to trade with fuck? Why would we continue to honor the dead of people who said they're in a fucking war with us?
Not only that, our goal is not to destroy Europe. Our goal is to make Europe subservient. Okay, is to make them stop shit stirring around the world and getting us into problems and killing our economy and killing our country with this communist libtarded socialism crap. How do you get them on board? There's only 3 countries that you need to. 3. Okay. Britain, France, and Germany. Okay. How do you get them on board? You're going to get it. You're going to get it, and you're going to understand why I'm doing this, because it's the first thing I brought up. Okay. How do you get them on board?
Oh, are you talking like you're going to starve them of the oil, and that they have to knuckle under?
All they're going to have are worthless dollars to buy energy with. They have no other energy. All 3 of them have shut down all of their nuclear plants. All 3 of them are only getting oil because we're allowing it right now. If we come in and say, we understand you hold a shit ton of debt that's basically worthless, we understand your currency is completely fucked, it's now time for you to get on board and stop with this stupid libtarded fucking immigration crap. It's time for you to start kicking out these fucking people and getting them the hell out of your countries. It's time for you to start getting control as opposed to just putting down everybody who disagrees with you and spreading your retarded shit all around the world. It's time for you to get on board, or you can fucking freeze to death for all we care. But if you get on board, we'll give you the oil. What do we give a fuck? We have enough of it.
Well, I know. I understand that. I get it. And I've always known that's a squeeze play. Why do you think that they're trying to? Why do you think
someone? Wait, let me just correct real quick. I understand France still has plenty of nuclear. I do understand that. I apologize for lumping them in with that. It's Germany.
Doesn't matter. They're gonna have, but they're running out. But we've taken away their fucking supply of refined uranium.
I know.
And raw uranium. They gotta buy it from the fucking Russians.
I'm addressing someone from the chat because they wrote that, and I realized that
I understand. I'm also talking to the guy in the chat. But by the way, the French are still buying fucking refined uranium fuel from the Russians. Oh, by the way,
right. Russia survives. They take the peace deal. Ukraine is no longer a threat. Okay, that's what happens. We have shored up all of our fucking domestic necessities and our manufacturing base in China. If we want to transition, we can. If we don't have to. Okay? We get rid of the vast majority of our debt on our balance sheet with Bitcoin and gold. We now have a glut of houses that are assumable at a 30-year fixed rate that are now being basically inflated away, which they're the victims of inflation now. Our housing market is on fire. Okay? If our currency debases, that's nothing but good for young people. Okay? What else does it do? It encourages the old people to downsize. Because now those old people who are holding on to...
There's a lot going on there. We have a real problem with the millennials having been forced out of... Millennial men don't have any fucking work experience.
Agreed.
One of the downsides of this whole DEI thing is that these guys have been passed over in their careers, just like Gen X has been passed over for political control, right? And board control of all these companies. Like all this DEI welfare shit, this is a big deal. It's something we have to...
It isn't.
Okay.
Go back to what I said. Who are we losing? Low-skilled workers. We're losing all of them. They're getting rid of all of them. All
I
the
understand
immigrants
that,
are
but
getting
these guys
out.
still don't have the fucking chops.
No, they don't.
Like
I'm not talking about highly skilled jobs. I'm talking about jobs that are now available to millennials that they can do and make decent money for doing it and get themselves into homes and get themselves into what they need to, especially as their parents now are starting to die and they're going to start inheriting some money. Okay? Right now, the biggest problem is...
We would goddamn hope so, but the boomers seem dead set on spending it all before they leave.
Right. But what I'm saying, though, is that as of right now, one of the biggest problems with the housing market is we have no incentive whatsoever for older people to sell because they're going to be getting into a higher interest rate to downsize, and in a market that's on fire for a house that they already have. I say it all the time. I could sell my house for 3 times what I bought it for. The problem is I got to buy another one. Right? Like, so I won't do it. I mean, granted, I wouldn't do it anyway. I love where I live. But regardless of that, I couldn't do it because I can't. I would have to pay the same amount that I'm selling for, right? The market is on fire, and every economist, left, right, and center, will tell you that old people refuse to downsize because there is no value to them selling their homes. If they sell their homes, they're still getting a higher interest rate and a highly overinflated market that's available to them right now. Okay? If all of a sudden the dollar is debased, housing prices fall because there's now a glut on the market because all these immigrants we're kicking out now have assumable mortgages where young people are buying starter homes and the old people can pick up the slack because they can now buy the same starter homes and downsize, right? The bigger homes come on the market, the more middle and wealthier people can start buying them instead of fucking BlackRock, right? Because it won't be a benefit to BlackRock buying them. Why would you want to buy those assets at this point? Unless you're planning on holding them for 30 years. You know what I'm saying? So right now you literally have the trifecta of everything in that the old people, their income hasn't been crushed because, because Social Security benefits are tied to inflation. Okay? Most of them don't have large amounts of savings. Their saving is in equity, which is in their house, which they can't cash in because the housing market's on fire and anything that they would want to do is going to hurt them really, really bad. They're going to have to downsize into a house that's more expensive than the one they're selling. Okay, so they're just
you've got to take the marginal demand off the market. You've got to take the marginal demand off the market, which is why everybody who needs a fucking job should go join ICE and get rid of these fucking people. Because that's going to drop the marginal demand. At the same time, I just saw this morning and it's going around and everybody's talking about it like it's a fucking negative that Lennar's average housing, new house costs has dropped from $511 to $375,000. I'm like, has anybody looked at lumber prices? That's why. It's not, oh my God, the housing market is crashing as well. No, one, the illegals aren't coming into the country anymore. We're not handing them fucking FHA loans to push the marginal price up, and lumber prices are in the fucking dirt. Lennar can make the same money on the same house at 511 that they could 40 years ago. I think love the baseline they choose. They choose the top of the fucking lumber market when lumber was $11 a fucking board foot. It's $2 a board foot now.
Yep.
Okay, like or 2.5 or whatever the fucking lumber futures are. They've crashed completely. I know I've got timber REITs in my fucking portfolio. I watch this shit all day long. So
you know what you're missing. You know what also? I want to address the one issue you.
But
mentioned.
those two things together would easily take 30% off the cost of a new house from Lennar.
Right.
So,
but let's have some fun also. You said, what's the problem with the millennials? Right. The millennials want to and basically feel they're entitled to step into the kind of managerial class. Right. Mm-hmm. Now, you don't necessarily need skills to be a good manager. You just have to be a good manager. Okay. Right. And you're right. DEI has destroyed that because we've let a lot of bad managers in to do a lot of bad shit. Okay. Mm-hmm. What's going to happen if all of this stuff we just talked about happens? People are going to start retiring again. Right now, you have the managers not leaving because they can't retire because their entire income supplement is their shitty Social Security, and the jobs they're refusing to leave. Okay, mm-hmm. If they can downsize their house and they can live on Social Security, and whatever retirement savings they have, which they'll now be able to do, all the millennials are right at the age and skill set to step in and start taking the managerial jobs. Mm-hmm. So that's where they get taken care of.
Start taking all the fucking CEO positions, which they've been cock-blocked from because the fucking boomers refused to retire.
Exactly. But now, though, they would start retiring because it would be more in their interest to downsize their house, enjoy their retirement because they can now retire because, again, debased currency.
And there will be better options in the market than just, fucking T-bills or the S&P 500, because the S&P 500 isn't necessarily going to be a long-term play, giving you 13, 18% every fucking year. You may have to actually, I don't know, figure out how to invest for a fucking living, but that's fine. You'll actually have some money.
And what everyone needs to understand too is what we're talking about. I know it sounds very rosy, as if everything's been planned out to perfection. There will be pain, and there will be a lot of people that are really upset, and a lot of people will get hurt. The difference is, can we get out of it? And if we can't, we're at civil war. If we can, you have to have the pieces in place that we can make the pain short. Okay, and right there, everything they've been doing, every indicator, everything that they've been doing shows that this is what they're doing. Okay, the only thing I haven't got you on board for is the gold and Bitcoin thing, but because you see hyperinflation, you see the inflation.
No, you do. No bullshit. That is a complete mischaracterization of what I just said, of anything I said.
Okay,
I just don't think we're going to do the fucking overnight rip. Like we're gonna work one day and we're gonna wind up with 20,000 gold and $1 million Bitcoin. No. Obviously, this is gonna play out over the course of the next 3 to 5 years. We're gonna see $1 million Bitcoin. I don't know what the number is on either of those. All I'm saying,
in order to make it worse, I'm saying that's the minimum.
I understand that, but there are other ways of getting there. But there are other variables in this equation that. Mm-hmm. There are other variables in the equation, and they could rise in importance over time. So don't get married to numbers. I'm saying. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the fucking audience. Right. What's important is to understand this is a very important thing to get into your head when you're looking at these things. If you get the trends right and you follow the fucking charts, then you'll know when, and you follow the politics, you'll know when the turning points happen, because geopolitics, domestic politics, and the fucking charts will all line up on the same fucking day. And you won't get whipsawed because you're an idiot like I was in September of 2011 and didn't sell every goddamn ounce of gold I had. Mm-hmm. Had I done that and waited for the fucking bottom, I'd have a lot more fucking assets.
Bro, I own thousands of Bitcoins over the course from 2010 till now. If only I hadn't, done stupid shit with them, I would be
exactly. We've all done this. So this is what I'm trying to tell her. It doesn't matter whether Halsey's numbers are correct. The general idea of the thesis is what's correct. It may be 750 and 15. Mm-hmm. Why? Because something else came in, changed the dynamic, came in and did something else. I don't know. Mm-hmm. We may monetize silver in this process. Something else may happen.
Oil again.
Something may happen. Okay, mm-hmm. Or we may decide that a 2-to-1 leverage ratio relative to the national balance sheet is good enough.
Yep, that's true too. That's very true too.
Okay. Again, what I've been saying when I always said there's going to be a negotiated settlement, I always said, like, we're going to look at our Fed's balance sheet relative to the amount of gold. I said this, I started saying this shit back when gold was $1,700 an ounce. So I'm like, look at it today. If the gold reserves, the national gold reserves versus the Fed balance sheet right now is a 9-to-1 leverage ratio. But when we're done here, we're going to decide what that leverage ratio is going to look like. Is it going to be 3-to-1, 4-to-1, 2-to-1, 1-to-1? I don't know. I have no idea. I'm not a fucking prognosticator because I'm not smarter than the fucking market. The market will decide. In that respect, the market will decide. So, the number is $1,020,000. It could be 750 Bitcoin and 25 or 30,000 gold. Why? Because the other countries decided $30,000 gold is more trustworthy than them. It may be that they want $2 million Bitcoin and $10,000 gold. I don't know, and none of us know. But those numbers, great signposts.
Yep.
Period. Okay, that's all. And how we get there, just don't map it out too hard. But the basic framework for all of this that we've discussed this afternoon has been in play. We've both been on this story from different perspectives the entire time, going. And what do we got? We had the framework for the grand bargain in the Middle East that you and I started theorizing back in 2017. We've got a president in charge today with a Treasury Secretary and a Secretary of State that understands how to stop the money flow, first at the NGO level, then at the illicit money flow, and then you got to get them to dump their real money on the table, the high tables money on the fucking table. And we get to that state, dudes, we've already won. This game's over. And the minute
we're already winning.
Rothschilds or any of these fucking people have to start pulling their money out of banks that you don't know, the name of, with brokers you've never heard of, all of a sudden, a new 10 or 15 tons of gold hits the fucking market to keep the Bank of England from going busto. I got news for you. That's high table money. I'm going to go, and now when we get done with this thing, I'm going to go sit and watch John Wick 4.
What you should also remember,
absolutely understood it. It's all embedded deeply in the mythology of that fucking series. So obvious. They know exactly. If you go a step further
too, and this is really important as well. There's a lot of people that are claiming Trump's not doing enough. He's not doing anything. Whatever. Okay, Trump is focused on two of the things that are literally the most important to make sure we don't drown. One is illegal immigration, and the other one is foreign policy. These are the two things. Why do you think they're talking about Obamacare in Congress and he doesn't give a shit? Okay, the only time he even talks about it is when they force him in question and answer to say something about it. And again, he doesn't really care. Because what are the Republicans in Congress doing? They're blowing up Obamacare. Okay, which is what we needed to do in the first place. If the money isn't there, people are going to freak the fuck out about their premiums going up to high heaven. And they're going to start instituting some of the reforms that we actually need. Now, I know a lot of people like to think like, oh, we could do this or we could do that. We need insurance over state lines. We need people to be able to form their own buyers groups. And like the Republicans, who everyone hates, have been saying fucking every day, and no one's listening, that you should be able to go to Costco and buy your health insurance, because Costco bought a group policy that they're willing to sell to you at a cut rate. Because A, you're not paying for pregnancies and transgender surgeries on it. There's no more mandates. You can decide what you need for health care. And B, they can offer you different plans because they, as Costco, just bought 50,000, 100,000, 100 million policies that they now have for sale. Okay? And you're starving Medicaid from being able to pick up the slack. That was the biggest problem with Obamacare. It wasn't just the tax subsidies. It would push so many people onto Medicaid that they got used to the government just paying for their health care. Right. Okay? And wrecked the fucking private market. Like, getting insurance through your employer right now is terrifying. Right?
Yeah, no, it is. It is. And I mean, the only way I would push back on that is I think Trump opened up this conversation. I think he dropped a stink bomb in the middle of the room and then just walked away. And in effect, just walked away. So
he's giving the Democrats something to focus on.
Insurance. I'm like, And he did that right after the government shutdown ended. Within 24 hours of the government shutdown ended, he immediately pivoted to Obamacare while he went back out on the foreign policy trail.
He went back out on the foreign policy trail, and he got them to start making excuses for keeping illegals here again. Remember, that in the end of the day, and as much as my right-wing friends like to say that we're not doing enough, in the end of the day, the American people are with us on immigration. They are.
Yep.
They want the illegals gone. They don't want to hear this shit anymore of like, oh, but they have a lower crime rate than us. Bullshit. They have a 100% crime rate. They're here illegally. Every one of them is a criminal. I don't care if they've ever committed a violent crime. Coming here illegally is a crime. You can't say they have a lower crime rate as long as we exclude this one crime. Okay? We don't want them driving our trucks. We don't want them picking our strawberries. We want them, if we're going to open the borders, it's going to be legally, and we're going to know who we're bringing in, as opposed to Muslim terrorists and Afghan refugees and Somali refugees and all of these people that we don't want here, that nobody wants
and
here.
we are going to tax their remittances back to their homelands and all of that stuff. You get to come here and work here, but you still have to pay into the friggin' system. Sorry, it's the way it is.
And for all you people who think that, like, oh my God, the Democrats have been giving them these cut rate mortgages, I think it's the number was 91% since COVID of the mortgages issued by Fannie and Freddie, by the FDA, by FHA, by all of them. FDA, FHA, and USDA, almost all of them, 91% went to illegals. All of those are assumable. Every last one of them.
Every last one of them, and they are also, and by rotating them out, you're taking the marginal demand off the market, which should bring the price of all of these houses down, especially if you're also talking about low lumber prices. And China is no longer building so many fucking ghost cities that they're sucking up the world's supply of fucking concrete, which is way too fucking high.
Yep.
Like, you guys have no idea. I'm trying to build a house. I can tell you what the friggin' the materials costs are, and they're insane. And so between that, the lowering the price of gasoline, which is a big fucking deal, reversing the war on transportation, which is another big friggin' driver of inflation, you can actually wind up, and this is again, when we talk about inflation, you have to start talking about what inflation and how. And I think we've ring-fenced this enough, and we're at about the 2-hour mark, and I got other work to do today, so I need to get going. But the point being is that a lot of these things are in transition. You are watching an economy in transition right now. You can see it in the data. And I'm telling you, we're still in a commodity cost push environment as far as inflation is concerned. The CPI that came out today perfectly correlated with the trend price and wholesale price of gasoline, the futures price of gasoline, which is trending 15 cents lower over last month. So I expect December's numbers to actually be negative. I expect the month over month change in the CPI to be negative for December if we see $1.70 or $1.65 on the price on RBOB gasoline futures at the end of this month, at the end of this year. So you watch, I just track the 4-month rolling average of the CPI versus the monthly closing price of gasoline. I just posted the friggin' chart this morning on my Twitter feed. You can see what I'm looking at. And directionally, they move in lock fucking step with each other.
Yep.
And so we finally got and that will change when we get into a demand pull environment. When we get into a demand pull environment, they will not correlate at all. So you're watching for when that trade ends, because then you're in a demand pull environment. And that is going to be your signal that we've turned the fucking corner.
You also need to pay attention to this, and this is a big one, okay? Everybody is talking about right now that wages haven't risen with inflation. Everyone's getting killed because the grocery prices are really high and all of that shit. But I want you to remember something. If you raise the minimum wage, they keep you working at Walmart. If they inflate away all of this, okay, if they do, guess what happens? Your wages rise organically. And now the organic wages that you've raised, you've missed the inflation because you don't have savings that are worth less now. Okay? You have available houses on the market that are assumable at a fixed rate for a great price with a low interest rate mortgage. All of these things are literally not conspiracy theory. They're all right there. Like literally it's right there.
These are all boundary conditions of the problems of your life.
And remember this, all of this hinges on us kicking out the illegals, which is what we're doing now. Yep. So as of right now, Keep bitching. I'm fine with it. I don't mind. I'm just saying, don't think that we as people, American people, and all of that are just blind to what's going on. We know what's going on, and we're changing the world. And I'm watching it every day, and it's one of those times I feel incredibly hopeful because things have been going really well. That's why when I know we're doing a show with EM soon. That's why I get a little like kind of like pissy about his idea that we're gonna resort to violence. I don't think we're gonna get there. I don't think we're gonna need to. I don't think we're gonna need to.
I hope so. I think that, I think it's worth him explaining the conditions under which we're going to get to.
Right.
And I understand what he's doing, which is that he's preparing you for the worst because you need to be in the like, dudes, I'm buying more guns again. Like, I'm back. I know my spidey sense is up. I know the hair on the back of my neck is raised, and I know I can't sleep well at night. I'm back to watching gun videos. Okay. And I'm, like, that's where I am. Be worried about it. Be prepared for it. Get yourself healthy as best as you can. And, do what you can to shore up your local community. But that's what Trump and company are trying to do. They're trying to stave off the potential for it to go to violence. Now, that is also Davos's next move. That's where we should leave.
100%.
And that's what you have to realize, is they're going. That's what all I said earlier about. I think Trump and company are accelerating the game, because if you can get them to make their violent move too early, it will be easier to put down with the least amount of blood.
You know what else is in the press every single day that everyone is going to remember? And by the way, this is an awesome financial decision too, by the way. Every day, I see Americans of the most lefty variety understanding that the police are not coming to help you when the Muslims get uppity. They're buying guns, they're buying ammo, and guess what? After the inflation, your ammo is going to be worth a fortune. So guess what? You have nothing to harm from buying guns and ammo, and everyone's talking about it. Like, remember Tim Walz issued some stupid executive order on guns, and literally right, left, and center of the spectrum politically are calling him a retard for it. Everyone understands that the people that got killed in Australia, the answer is not more censorship and gun control. No one believes that bullshit anymore. Okay?
Nope, not one.
An armed population is the greatest check on the government, and if Davos and the Democrats decide to make their move and try to bring about violence, remember who has the ability to bring it to them, to the point where they're not going to want to do it in the first place. Everyone's everyone's learning. Go for it.
Thank you for invoking the worst band name ever, Davos and the Democrats. It's a long running joke in the newsletter. By the way, I've been running that joke in the newsletter for like 6 months now. Every time I use that phrase, so you just like invoked it. I can't help myself. Worst band name ever. So you're absolutely right. And the thing is, it is the natural blowback from all cops are bastards, defund the police, and all of this shit. Next, the obvious thing is that when you stabilize the situation and everybody kind of looks up and goes, what the fuck are they talking about? Yeah, I'm buying a gun.
Yep.
Brown University, everything. They're So yeah, absolutely, guys. And if you're a Floridian, there's no sales tax on guns and ammo until the end of the year. So,
yep.
Shop smart, shop as smart. All right, Halsey, I'm going to run. You take care. We'll talk soon.
Okay, hang out for 1 second. I'm going to run the guys. I'll be back on Monday, but we'll talk soon. Stick around for a sec, Tom.
My fellow Americans, tonight I am speaking to you because there is a growing humanitarian and security crisis at our southern border.
In all honesty, a border wall or steel slats won't work. But great bodies of water will separate us from the horrible Mexican rapists. Introducing the 2019 Trump Great Border Moat. Stocked with the most aggressive penis fish, incredible man-eating alligators, and unbelievable genetically modified moose-cocked rape dolphins, as well as flying, migrant-eating sharkfish. So incredible.
I swore to protect our country. And that is what I will